We are facing a perfect triumvirate of circumstances right now in the United States of America that are creating a situation where a collapse is almost inevitable, in my opinion. And my purpose with Unbelievable Reality, and by the way, welcome to Unbelievable Reality Podcast. I am Roy Arthur. My whole goal always with Unbelievable Reality is to explain how unbelievable our fucking reality really is in plain English, so that people can really understand from a simple place what the hell is going on around us when we are surrounded by so much information, nonsensical and sensical, and verbiage that is specifically used to keep us confused. To understand that, the words that politicians speak, talking heads on television, on CNN, are deliberately chosen to keep us confused, and specifically to keep the people that have lower levels of education completely confused, because they simply do not understand what the hell is being said. And whether that's their fault or not their fault, that's a story for another story for another story. But the truth of the matter is that 60% of Americans have the reading and comprehension skills of a 6th grader. That's simple. What that means is that they can read a big word like, I don't know, capitalism, but they don't know what capitalism means. They don't know that capitalism is actually a financial system that functions in a certain way, as opposed to, say, communism, which is another financial system and a system of governance, capitalism being the same, that functions in a different way. People get confused by the word communism and socialism because they don't really understand what does it mean. Communism, in layman's terms, is everybody gets an equal share. It's people for the people, everybody divides equally. Everybody contributes equally, everybody divides equally. Capitalism is one person makes something and makes money off of selling it to other people. That's how it works. And however much I earn is mine to keep or decide what to do with it. In communism, all the people decide, supposedly, what to do with it. Socialism is a different system altogether. I am not a political scientist major, nor am I a professor, so I'm not going to go into that. What I'm trying to get across in this is big words confuse people. Unbelievable Reality's goal is to try to use small words so people aren't so fucking confused. The question that is in front of us right now is how did we get here? How do we get to this place where we are celebrating our 250th anniversary of the creation of this nation? How did we get here? Where did it come from? Where did the ideas come from? How does that relate to what's happening right now in the world around us? So that we can understand in this country, history has always been a political tool. There's a saying that goes, history is written by the victors. And this is true, because if you lose, mostly back in the day, everybody was dead, so they weren't going to be writing books about how good you did, because you's dead. You are history, literally. That was the worst dad joke ever. History is recorded by the people that won, and they write what they want to remember about how they want. And this country is a perfect example of national mythology. Our educational system really doesn't function to teach us the truth about the history of this country. And for that matter, I'm not really sure that the educational system of any country is. Because every country has its own stories. Every country has its own narrative, its own mythologies to make that country unique and special. And in the case of our ego-driven country, not only do we have to be unique and special, but we have to be the greatest in the history of the world. Greater than any. That's a pretty heavy lift, right? But that's kind of the mission statement. Mission statement. Once again, for simple people, a mission statement is this is what we plan to do. That's a mission statement. This is what we plan to do. And then this is how we're going to do it. Just so you know, the next time you hear that, you won't be like, what the fuck did you just say? That's what they're saying. Countries create narratives and mythologies to match their mission statement and also to make everybody agree and feel better. The problem with the United States of America right now is that late stage capitalism, which is the creation of money by selling goods and services to others. You come to my store and buy a banana, I take your money, I buy more bananas, I take some of the money because I raised the price of the banana before I sold it to you. You're paying me for the convenience of selling you the banana and for the fact that I own the physical building that the banana is in and the bananas themselves, which I bought, theoretically, that's how it used to work, before I sold the banana to you. That was convoluted but kind of necessary. You'll understand as we move on. Back to bananas. No, getting away from bananas. Capitalism is in its late stages because one of the problems has always been unsolvable in capitalism. Capitalism works as long as people don't get greedy. And as long as society does not value people by how much money they have. These are two really big flaws in capitalism that we're living the consequences of right now. Because it's human nature to not only always want more, but to lord it over everybody around you when you have more. We, based on the best evolutionary evidence, are primates, monkeys. We just happen to have the biggest brains of all of the different kinds of monkeys. And so because of that, we behave differently in some ways. But we're still very tribal. What does tribal mean? That means we work together in groups. Hence the word tribe. A tribe of monkeys. A tribe of people. A tribe is not necessarily a nation. I want you to keep that in mind for later on. This is a very important distinction. There's a difference between a tribe, which is usually limited in size and area, and a nation, which is a combination of tribes coming together to form a coalition. Coalition means everybody works together, regardless of which tribe you're in. But tribalism, the instinct, is ingrained in our DNA because we're monkeys. And monkeys have to work in groups to be successful. Because unlike tigers, who are fully equipped to feed themselves without help, we have to work together to do that, for the most part. Or it's easier to work together to do that, for the most part. Do you understand so far? I certainly hope so, because I'm starting to feel a little confused. The point of the story is we're reaching the end of what we call capitalism. This is late stage capitalism, where all the cracks in the system are starting to really become apparent. Our most recent current cracks are the AI bubble, financial bubble that's being created by the invention of a new technology called artificial intelligence, and a combination of a degraded environment because of the pursuit to fulfill capitalism's main goal, which is to create wealth, i.e. money. Capitalism, as I've explained before in previous videos, works on two things only. In the history of capitalism, two things work: exploiting labor and extraction of resources. Take it for free, pay as little as you can to get it, and sell it for as much as you can. The idea of capitalism is debated as to how old it is when it was invented. Most people give Adam Smith the honor, I guess, of being the quote father of modern capitalism. He wasn't. He was just a writer. He wrote down his observations of a system that was already in place. As a matter of fact, the United States of America was founded by corporations. Think about that. The mythology we've been sold is the religiously persecuted pilgrims getting on the boat and sailing to Plymouth or to Jamestown. These innocent people in bonnets and black suits with weird fucking hats and buckled shoes showing up, oh goodness gracious, we need a new home because we're persecuted. Wrong. These were the start of colonies. Colonies were built to extract resources. In the case of the United States, specifically the East Coast, where the 13 original colonies were founded, the resources were abundant. There was timber, there was fur. There wasn't much in the way of gold or minerals, but there was coal. There were minerals. There was farmland to create produce. There were ways to extract from the land. The oldest settlement in the United States was Jamestown, Virginia. Jamestown was founded, I had to take some notes on this so that I got it correct. Jamestown was founded by the Virginia Company, which was a company that was formed in England in 1619 to send a boat full of fucking workers who had to wear multiple hats. They had to be workers, explorers, breeders, shit. That was a job I would not have signed up for. But there were desperate people in 1600s, I tell you. And so, because, you'll love this, the Inquisition, the Spanish Inquisition was in full swing in the early 1600s. Think about that. The rack, the torture, the burnings at the stake. All that was happening when the United States of America was officially founded. The United States of America was not found by Columbus. It had been found approximately 1,000 years earlier by the Vikings, specifically Eric the Red. I'm not going to go into Viking history, but Norse history, by the way. Vikings is a conglomerate term for a group of people from the north. They were all white. That's a pigment issue. Farther north you are, the less sunlight, the less pigment you have to grow, the whiter you are. The farther the south you go, the more sunlight, the darker the pigment, the blacker you are. Get it? It has nothing to do with how fucking smart you are or what color you are. It's because of nature and evolution. Super sorry. That's the truth. The first known company was the Dutch East India Company that was formed in Amsterdam in 1602, specifically to explore Africa and India. That's what the Dutch East India Company did. They were the colonizers of Africa and India. And in order to pull that off, a bunch of merchants, i.e., people that owned stores and boats, got together and said, tell you what, I'll give you $50, you give me $50. A bunch of them said, sure, we'll all pitch in $50, we'll buy a boat, we'll find a bunch of dumb son of a bitches, we'll put them on the fucking boat, we'll kick them out into the ocean, wherever they stop, if they live that long, they stop, they put a flag in the ground, and it belongs to us. They bring back anything they can carry. Whatever they bring back, we're gonna sell it, and we're gonna split the proceeds amongst us. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, fuck off, we'll find somebody else. Thus the creation of Dutch East India Company. Thus the creation of the United States of America. In 1620 with the very first town, Jamestown. That's the first English settlement. See, the Spanish were a little ahead of us. They were already in Mexico in the 1500s. And they'd already been to Florida, where they founded St. Augustine, Florida. And that was in I think it's 08. Because I live in Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is the second oldest community still in existence in the United States of America, and it was founded by the Spaniards in 1610, a decade before the English came to Jamestown. Now, the difference was shit times short. The difference was the English came as companies. The Spanish came from the government. This is a big difference, and one we're going to explore later. Obviously, the bottom line is the capitalist version of colonialization worked better because more people shared the risk. When the government, i.e. the King and Queen of Spain, the dear Isabella, and her afterthought, her spawn, her get, her whelp, her descendants. By the way, Isabella was a major reason for the Inquisition, which started in, drumroll please, Spain, hence the term Spanish. Yeah, Isabel, who sent Columbus on his way to discover China, going the wrong way, but he knew that. Anyway, Isabel was the creator and the founder of the Spanish Inquisition. The point I'm trying to make is today in the United States of America, corporations are really running our country. They've managed to buy out our government. Through the Citizens United decision in 2011, that role of owning our government was really cemented when the Supreme Court decided with the Citizens United decision that corporations had the same rights as people. They were able to spend as much money as they wanted to pick the candidates that were on their side to get them elected. That is what has brought us to today, wherein 8 corporations in the United States basically run our world. I will not get them all, but those corporations, you know their names: Apple, Microsoft, Meta, Oracle, Nvidia, Google, Walmart. There's actually more than 8. The 8 I'm talking about when I made that reference are the 8 that have created the ultimate late stage capitalism problem, which is circular financing. And those are the AI companies, those 8 companies' combined value on the stock market is 45% of the entire market. And here's the problem. And this is a problem that was run into in this country numerous times before. It's always happened. It's happening again. It's just happening in a slightly different way because of technology. These companies have created a financial loop wherein they buy from each other while they're loaning to each other. I'm borrowing the money from you to buy your product. You give me the money to buy what you make. I give you the money to buy what I make because I borrowed the money from what he makes to make what I make because he borrowed the money from the guy before. 8 companies. 8 companies. Nvidia, Oracle, Microsoft, Google, Amazon, and 3 others that I cannot name. 8 companies rule the stock market. 8 companies have us on the brink of collapse. The reason why we do the historical reference here is really simple. People need to understand America is an experiment in capitalism. It is not an experiment in democracy. That's the mythology. That's the lie. That's the national story that gets us to believe it's bigger than money. But the truth is, it has always and forever will be, in its current form, about the money. It was never about freedom of religion. It was never about First Amendment. It was never about we the people. That's flowery language added to a paper document to make the average people buy the dream. Because without us buying the dream, they couldn't get rich. That is the story, the true story of America. And the true story of America is that in order for those first colonialists in Plymouth, in Jamestown, in Florida, in North Carolina, all along in New York, all along the eastern seaboard, in order for them to be successful, they had to do 2 things. They had to get rid of the people that were already here, and then they had to survive long enough to extract the resources. And those 2 things were not mutually compatible. Because contrary to the American myth, the United States, North America, this includes the US and Canada, prior to the arrival of Europeans, this goes back to the Spaniards in 1491. Prior to that, there were 40 million people living in North America, and approximately another 30 million people living in South America. More than the population of the entirety of Europe lived here before the first Europeans arrived. And that's true. It's fact. What happened to those people is part of the moral dilemma that this country still deals with today, because they all died. For America to exist as it does today, millions of people had to die. And that's what genocide means. People have to die. Our dilemma today is that we just allowed that to happen in Gaza, in Palestine, on the banks of the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. We've allowed another one to happen. We fought a war, World War II, to stop a genocide that was happening then. This time, not only we decide not to stop it, the United States sold them the weapons to do it, to make money. Final thoughts on capitalism. Through the history of the United States, from Civil War, 1863 to 1867-ish, to today, the United States economy has exploded 13 times. Almost every 10 years, the economy of the United States has failed. Do you understand that? It failed almost every decade. The way we've gotten out of it, 90% of the time, has been through war. Through war. A great example is the dot-com crash of 2002. It's not really ironic that right after that, we found ourselves in another war in Iraq. Just saying. There's more to that story, but just saying. The United States has gone through several collapses because fundamentally capitalism fails because of people. And even though right now we're trying to create a superhuman intelligence, it's not, it's an alien intelligence. It's being built by people. And people have a really bad habit of overestimating, under-preparing, and then trying to survive what happens next. That's the United States right now, in July of 2026, getting ready to celebrate our 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, which, by the way, was not the winning of the Revolutionary War. The Revolutionary War lasted for 7 years. People are all confused. Now, 1776 is when they signed the Constitution. The war did not end until 1783. And then another war was fought in 1812. That is a slice of the history that's created the unbelievable reality that I am doing a podcast right now on. I'm Roy Arthur. This is Unbelievable Reality Podcast. If you don't like my opinions, don't fucking watch. Pick me up, Roy Arthur P, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Patreon. We'll talk soon.